Was that good last night, wasn't it? Okay, so if everyone can just get settled and take their seats, we're gonna start. Very welcome to all of you to day 2 here of Automotive Logistics 2018 here in Mexico. I hope you've all had a good night's rest after the busy day yesterday. It was a fantastic day, I thought, start to finish. With great presentations from the government, from car makers, from tier suppliers, logistics providers, going through so many of the issues we face here in Mexico, from all the opportunities that we talk about, the difficult negotiations with NAFTA, to the logistics challenges and bottlenecks. And then what better way to learn about logistics bottlenecks in Mexico than to get on a bus and try to go 3.5 kilometers to the center of Mexico City in a hailstorm and flood, and take about 2 hours to get there, at least for some of our buses. I think most of you probably know when Mexico City was founded by the Aztecs, it was built atop a lake. And it felt a bit like we went in time last night when the state of some of the roads. But there's not much we can do about the weather. Perhaps if we had used the big data analytics we learned about, if we'd learned about those in time, we might have been able to prepare. But it didn't really matter in the end. I mean, I think everyone in Mexico gets on with things, and in the end, we got there. And I want to thank Penske because that was a fantastic gala dinner, and I think it was worth fighting through the traffic for. And thank you to our team as well for organizing that in this beautiful venue. I was glad you could all share it with us, and glad to be back here with you again to finish the conference. Just a few points, actually, to remind you. In front of you on your tables, there's some feedback forms. We're going both paper and digital now at Automotive Logistics. So if you want the old-fashioned way to give us your feedback, we're more than happy to receive. You can fill in the form, which is on all of your tables. So give us your feedback. It's really important. This feature, though, you can also use our app, the conference app, which we've been telling you about the last 2 days. There it is again, the instructions to do that. You just download it from the Apple Store or Android, wherever you get your apps, and simply download it, and you can log in that way. And there is a survey option in there, so please use that. And there's also the capability to rate each session individually, so you can give us your feedback on every session, tell us about the highlights, the lowlights, and everything that we need to know to improve. If you need to get on the Wi-Fi, again, the network here in this room is ALMX18, and the ProTrans is who's a sponsor of the Wi-Fi, is the password. So use the app or fill in the paper. Really whatever suits you. We're in a world that deals, as the supply chain, we have to deal with a lot of paper, but we also have digital solutions as well. And again, you can see up there, there's a hashtag. You can tweet. You can follow this on LinkedIn. You can use the social wall on the app itself. You can communicate with delegates. So keep the dialogue going throughout the conference, and clearly keep that going after the conference as well. We've got a great panel this morning talking about the future of automotive logistics in Mexico. And I think, when we talk about the future, we can think, again, about digitalization, we can talk about technology, and all those things are very important, and I'm sure our delegates will be, our speakers will touch upon them. But obviously, the future of automotive logistics in Mexico is here in this room. It's all of you, it's your companies, it's the supply chain stakeholders. It's all about you working together and finding solutions, finding the right technology or process, whether it's high-tech or low-tech, to deal with the challenges that we're facing. It's not, as the representative from the Secretariat of the Economy said, not everything is what's getting negotiated in a closed room somewhere. We can take a lot in our own hands, and that's what this conference tries to encourage, tries to build upon. I thought we might, just as we did at the end of yesterday, start off with a few more survey questions. As you know, for those of you here yesterday, the app that I just referenced has a live voting function. So if you can, those of you who are using the app, maybe just pull out your phone quickly. We'll just do 2 or 3 questions just to kind of get us started here. As the team pulls that up, though, let me introduce our panel to you, because this is, they're going to be leading the discussion. But it just gives us a bit of food for thought as we go along here. So we're very pleased, first of all, that we'll be welcoming back Rafael Lopez, who's the Material Planning and Logistic Director of Ford Mexico. And Rafael, I have to say, has been involved with us at this conference from the beginning and helping planning. 3 or 4 years ago when we came to Mexico, Rafael was always very helpful, and so we really appreciate that, and we're glad that you could join us today. So Rafael, welcome. All right, you want to start? Yeah, start, please. Thank you. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Chris and Christoph and Louis from Automotive Logistic Magazine, and thank you to all the
Automotive Logistics. También gracias a todos los patrocinadores que nos invitaron a formar parte de este foro. Soy Rafael López, estoy a cargo de planeación material y logística de Ford México.
I will, the name of this panel, of the purpose of this panel is to discuss the future of the logistics in Mexico. Then I will carry you through some background, the situation that we are facing right now, and how are we foreseeing the vision of the logistics in Mexico by 2020. And at the end, I will have some conclusions that obviously can be applied, and we can talk later in questions and answers about this. Here I am showing the same figures that the lady from the Economy Ministry showed to us. In 2017, the production year to date in Mexico was 3.8 million units. This means an increase of almost 9% when compared with 2016. The 2020 forecast is because this is a public information done by some forecasting enterprises. The forecast for 2020 is that we will rise, the production of vehicles in Mexico will rise to 5 million units. SUV and premium increase the production, and car and trucks are down. The 2017 year-to-date export was 3.1 million of units. This was an increase of a little bit more than 12% versus 2016. The sales reached almost 1.6 million vehicles. This was a decrease of 5% year over year. Another fact that is very interesting and important for the automotive industry in Mexico is that the automotive industry in Mexico represents 3.2% of the national gross domestic product, the GDP, and a little bit more than 18% of the manufacturing GDP. This industry and all the people that works for the automotive industry in Mexico represent that is generating little less than 900,000 direct jobs, and these represent 20% of the North American vehicle production. 80% of the Mexico light vehicle production is exported, and 86% of exports going to Canada and the United States. This information was already shown by some of the former presenters, and here I can show you the advantage of making business in Mexico. Mexico has many global commercial trades. You can see here we have 12 commercial trades with 46 countries, TLCs, 32 agreements to get reciprocal promotion and protection of investment with 33 countries, the APPRS, and 9 agreements with limited extent, acuerdos de complemento económica y acuerdos de alcance parcial in the frame of the Latin American Integration Association, the ALADI. We can conclude from this slide that Mexico is a door to access a potential market to more than 1,000 million of consumers and 60% of the worldwide PIB. This is we study the logistic, or we divide the operation of the logistics in Fort of Mexico. One of the subjects that we have to take care of is the inbound logistics. This means all that we have to do in order to bring productive material to our plants in Mexico. In this slide, we can see the distribution of our tier 1 suppliers in Mexico. You can see here the zones, and you can see very easily that most of the suppliers are in the central Bajío area. And most important, this distribution remains almost the same, comparing 2018 with 2017. But important thing here to mention is that year over year, we are forecasting a growth of suppliers located here in Mexico from 469 in 2017 to 533 by this year. And by 2020, we expect that the supplier base in Mexico will continue to grow to reach almost 600 of suppliers in Mexico. That means that the supplier base located in Mexico will grow by 17%, comparing current figures with 2020. Why is important to know where the suppliers are located? Because, as I mentioned it before, we have to bring the productive material to our plants. We have to bring parts to Hermosillo stamping and assembly plant, to Chihuahua engine plant. Both plants are in the northwest of the country. We have to bring also parts to Irapuato transmission plant, to Cuautitlan assembly plant, and we have here a cross dock in San Luis Potosí. To the right of the slide, you can see all the movements that we need to perform in order to comply, to feed on time our plants in Mexico. We use all the transportation modes. We use air shipments. We don't like to do this, but we have the necessity to perform air freight when we have a critical suppliers or some constraint in the normal operations mode, let's say truck or rail car. We perform about 900 rail car moves by month. We move 6,500 of truck over flat cars moves, almost 8,000 moves per month by truck. Overseas, we receive material overseas for about more than 600 vessels per month, and we perform daily almost 1,800 imports operations by our customs department, and also 900, almost 1,000 daily export operations by customs. We call this scheme the spider of the logistics. Here you can see we use this is related to the finished vehicle logistics. We have the responsibility in logistics in Ford to import all the vehicles that are commercialized here within the country, and deliver those vehicles until the door of the final dealer, who will sell the unit to the final customer. Also, we have the responsibility to export our vehicles. Then you can see we use all the transportation modes as well. We use rail car. We use some vehicles distribution center strategically located in Cuautitlan, in Guadalajara, in Monterrey, and Hermosillo, to consolidate the loads that are going to be sold by car haul to the final dealers. Here we can see we receive 9 vessels through the port of Veracruz. The port of Veracruz is very important for us. It's the only port that we are using to import vehicles. And we dispatch 15 vessels per month with the export products. Because we are going to talk about the logistic vision of the vision of the logistics in Mexico by 2020, this is important to know. This is the logistic infrastructure that we have At this moment, in 2018. We have 117 ports. We have about a little less than 400,000 kilometers of roads, 76 airports, 27 kilometers of railroads, 66 rail terminals, 49 customs office, 8 logistics corridors within the country. And the conclusion of all this infrastructure and the operation that we have is that the logistic cost is about 10% of the total company cost. The goods transportation in Mexico represents about 14% of the PIB. At the right of the slide, you can see how is Mexico ranked because of the World Bank. These are figures developed by this institution. And here you can see number one in logistic infrastructure is Germany with 4.2 points. One is the less convenient, 5 is the most efficient. And here you can see Mexico is located in place 53, above Brazil and above Argentina. Here is we have the conclusion of this ranking is we are between the first 50 countries ranked by the World Bank, but we are far away, 53 places far away from the number one, that is Germany. The total of countries ranked because of by the World Bank is 256. What are the challenges that we have by 2020 talking about logistics? One is to reduce, I mentioned it before, that the cost of logistics in Mexico is round about 14%. No matter that the expenses logistics in Mexico are less expensive than compared with the United States and Canada. If you compare the logistics cost in United States and Canada, this will mean between 8 and 9% of their PIB. That means that we have a possibility of a probable improvement there. Also, a challenge is to improve the safety and the physical conditions of road and rail infrastructure, increase the installed capacity to geographical strategic ports. If you remember the presentation of Peter from Audi, he already mentioned about the situation of Veracruz. We need to increase the capability of communication. We need better communication services. Reinforce the Red Nacional de Impulso a la Banda Ancha, NIVA, and also to continue promoting a system that the government has as a national system of logistic platforms. Which is the vision that we have for the logistics? What do we want to have by 2020? This is what we want. In some cases, we are far away from the conditions that we would like to have, not by 2020, by now, but this is that we would like to have, talking about logistics in Mexico by 2020. The first point is it's a data, it's in public information. Automotive industry will continue in expansion by 2020. We already mentioning that the production would rise about 5 million of units produced in Mexico. We would like to have a balanced infrastructure available in highway, in ports, in railways, in equipment, in intermodal facilities. We would like to have an articulated master plan to match demand not for Ford, demand for all the parties that use the logistic infrastructure versus the offer. We want that our 3PL suppliers acumen continue increasing. They should continue supporting us in innovation, with talent. They should be self-sufficient and accountable for the operations that we put on their hands. The Mexican human capital, we should have a state-of-the-art logistics knowledge if we want to continue supporting the manufacturing operations in Mexico. We also are working right now, but needs more emphasis in green and sustainable logistic chain, low-free CO2 emissions, and environmental friendly recycled materials. Real-time and global wireless technologies integrating all the logistic network. Our experience here is that we have good systems. Ford has very good systems. In some cases, our systems are very well integrated with the systems, with the IT systems from the suppliers. But when you want to match the vessel with the port, with the rail car, with the haulaway, with the deliveries to final dealer, there is a problem to synchronize all the information. You have to work with the ocean carrier, with the rail car company, with the car haul company, but we don't have everything integrated. The government regulations should be aimed to support efficiencies in the whole logistic chain. The government is making efforts in customs offices, implementing some new systems and avoiding with paperless systems. Also, it's very important the integrity of the in-transit cargo. We should have more reliability on security, and the conclusion of all these points is Mexico should have a logistic cost best in the world. As I told you before, in some cases or in most of the cases, there is a long way to be where we want to be, but our vision is we should continue pursuing to be there. The conclusion, our conclusions in this presentation is talking about foreign investments. We think that despite the external factors, Mexico projected vehicle productions remain over 5 million of units. Then it is crucial the logistic optimization to maintain a competitive manufacturing cost. We should act where we can act to improve our processes, to improve the infrastructure, and to continue being or increase our competitiveness. The human capital, only 50% of the companies in Mexico invest in logistic human capital. It is required to impulse the creation of more educative programs to leverage our expertise in supply chain. Here I was very pleased to talk with some students from the university. I don't remember the name, but the Pan American University, and was an initiative from Automotive Logistics. And it was very, very interesting that they are asking, what if I work for the logistic chain in Mexico? I and my team were very glad to share our experiences with these students, and also the professors of the students are interested in having more close communication with the companies in order to increase the educative programs in their school to promote the education in logistics for their students. Talking about of infrastructure, for the last 10 years, Mexico has improved the infrastructure and investment, but with all these improvements in 10 years, we are only 2 places. We have only go up in the statistics of the World Bank by 2 places. It is needed that all the parties, the needs of all the parties should be integrated and shared in dedicating forums and promote the development of this master logistic plant. And our last point is talking about that we can do in optimizing the logistic infrastructure, considering that the logistic infrastructure is only one, and it is shared by all the parties. It is needed to work and rationalize and optimize its usage, working together with all the OEMs, with all the companies that are using this infrastructure, and with the government. Otherwise, if we don't work in this manner, we will create more disruption to the processes that we have right now. Then with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention and patience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christos.
Thank you. Muchas gracias, Rafael. Again, great presentation. I think you laid out the high level and the high level challenges pretty much perfectly, and of course you gave us some great insight into the specifics for Ford in terms of the complexities of Ford's network and how that is impacted by the overall network here in Mexico. I think it's a sort of important message there at the end, of course, about working together, whether the government and industry, OEMs and logistics providers, customs authorities, all sort of communicating to make sure that the right investments and the right changes are made. So thank you again for that and for sharing that. Our next presenter from Ryder Mexico, Ricardo Alvarez, Director of Solutions and Business Development. Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Chris. My name is Ricardo Alvarez, and I am a Director of Solutions and Business Development for Ryder in Mexico. Been with the company for 15 years. And I want to thank Louis and the Automotive Logistics Group for the opportunity to keep collaborating and sharing these great moments with the Automotive Logistics Group and some customers, competitors, and the industry. During the last few days, I have been thinking on how should I start talking about the future. And to be honest, it's not easy being in front of an audience like this one. But let's start by saying that many companies are changing, evolving, innovating. We have been talking and listening to some other colleagues or professionals about adopting technology. And those companies that are not doing it or are not adapting to change are either struggling on their business or even disappearing. And I don't have a slide for this, but I want to share something with you that I just read. And it was a publication from a professor at the Yale University where he was showing a statistic about the average life of companies in 1935. And the average was about 90 years. Companies lasting between 80, 90, 100 years. Just 20 years after, it went down to 45 years. And the most recent study showed that companies are only lasting 15 years. What a number, right? And to reinforce this, which is all about change, he's also projecting what they see in the future. They are saying that 75% of the Fortune 100 companies are going to be organizations that today they don't exist. So that's, again, the Ubers, the Netflix, all those companies that are revolutioning the industries, wherever they work or wherever they have their presence. So just to make a quick reflection, that if we don't change, if we don't adapt to that change, we will be facing very, very hard and challenges to achieve. Let me now move to, which is the, here? Perfect. Thank you. This is, again, about how things are changing. And we as professionals involved in either manufacturing, automotive manufacturing, or in supply chain, we are not an exception when we talk about change. This study from the Warehousing and Education Research Council shows, just to look back, and it is not that long, it is just 3 years, and it shows us how supply chain professionals are changing their priorities on what they want to measure when talking about supply chain operations and warehouse cross-docking operations. So let me just give you what I see here as the most important highlights. It shows the top 12 categories, and all of them are interesting themselves for 2017. But taking a quick look back, in 2015, you can see that only 5 of the 2017 top 12 metrics were even mentioned. And the number 1 metric was about customers. On-time deliveries, on-time shipments. A year after, in 2016, only 6 of the top 12 metrics shown last year were mentioned, and the number 1 was again about customers, on-time deliveries again. But last year, what do you think the top metric was? Well, it was not customers. We always have customers as our top priority, but are now also starting to measure some other things. So you will see that customer was on the list, but went to number 3 at a 2-position drop. And as I said, people are starting to measure something different. So warehouse capacity or warehouse productivity in last year was number 2. Was number 1, I'm sorry, and the previous year was number 2 when 2 years ago it was number 6. And if we just take a quick look at the entire list, we will see that there are 5 metrics in 2017 that were not even on the list the previous year. So in 1 year, that it is how change is occurring, how fast change is occurring. Priorities, focus on employees, their productivity, their quality of life, how many hours they're working, trying to control turnover. Those are the main metrics people is now trying to focus. And if I had a crystal ball, I would tell you what 2018 will look like, but I just don't have a crystal ball. So what I would like to show you is the wider vision and the direction that we feel a successful supply chain operation will need to move to keep or stay competitive. So let's take a look. Let's take a look forward. In Ryder, we always consider whatever you are looking in the left side of the slide that I'm showing right now, all of our day-to-day situation, challenges, some trends. But we are trying to send a message that our vision is considering 3 main components. Digital supply chain, which was well presented yesterday by some of the experts in terms of digitalization or digitization. We see it as an environment with a very easy access to technologies with the main intention of delivering unique and integrated business capabilities across our supply chains. And part of digital supply chain is smart warehousing. We do a lot of warehousing in North America for our customers. And we are seeing the opportunity for enormous improvements in technology, but combined with the operational enhancements and always keeping a look on how to increase the skills and the productivity of our employees. So hard combination, right? But that's the way it is. And at the end, the Internet of Things for transportation. Technology is not apart from transportation, and I will try to go a little deeper in my next few slides. So digital supply chain, it was very well presented yesterday. But I just want to make quick comments here. We see it as an intelligent, value-driven network that help us leveraging new technologies, techniques and methods. And it is powered by data analytics to create value and revenue. And why not? More profit for everybody. And the main and very simple difference we see between a traditional supply chain and a digital supply chain is that in a digital one, you need to store all your information digitally, and you need to make sure that it's visible and available to be connected at all times with other nodes within your supply chains. The main benefits about incorporating or transforming your supply chain to a digital one will be very easy to identify. And the way we envision it is you will become more forward-looking. Will be able to connect and relate all your data sources. It will allow you to generate data-driven plans through data visualization. It will definitely improve collaboration between all the participants within your supply chains. And we all are going to be able to enter the world of digital products and services. On this next slide, it is another publication from the material handling industry. This report was shown or published in 2017, where it's clear that we don't want warehouses, we don't want distribution centers to be just a cost center. We are evolutioning, we're trying to transform those buildings to a something that will give you a competitive advantage. So you need to start bringing technology, developing your talent, controlling turnover. Again, in the past, a warehouse did not make any sense to be running a warehouse if it was just a cost center. So let's start thinking about it. So this report shows us the view of 1,100 professionals that are related or involved in either manufacturing or supply chain operations. And 92 responded. And that 92%, all of them identify that at least one of these new technology that is becoming available will make the difference. In Ryder, we are not the exception. We see it the same way, and what we're trying to do is, instead of going and bring a little bit of everything, we're trying to identify and prioritize, and we're focusing on 4 of them that I will show you in my next slide. So the main 4 innovative technologies that we think will make a difference in the near future are automation, autonomous vehicles, sensors, wearable technology. And if you haven't, please go visit us in our booth, and you will see you can do a test. You can wear your augmented reality glasses that we have over there to perform picking activities on how you will increase productivity at about 20%, and it's proved. And the use of drones in our distribution centers. It's not an easy challenge. We're starting slowly. We're testing with piloting, but we're pretty sure those are the top 4 innovative technologies that will take us to deliver the 5 key attributes that we see. How can I go back, Chris? Right here? Okay. So the top 5 attributes that could, from our perspective, could perfectly define a smart warehouse is that you will be automating as it makes sense. It's not just about replacing labor with technology. It's about finding the right balance between technology, skilled labor, and available resources. The other one is you will remain nimble in terms of deciding what is the space you require in a warehouse, the staff you need, and the softwares you are incorporating. One more is you will scale instantaneously. You will be quick responding to your customer needs. And of course, you will be delivering real-time 100% visibility. The last one, but not less important, is that you will be really providing a customer-centric experience when doing this type of smart warehousing operations. So, as I said a few slides ago, transportation is not apart from incorporating technology. So in Ryder, we are also taking a look at this. And even though we cannot, in Mexico, be a carrier, we do a lot of transportation management. So are trying to start testing what we're doing in the US, which is bringing that type of technology. And what it will give you is, connectivity and the use of sensors, telematics, and cloud computing will enable us as a logistics provider to track each node within our supply chains and will allow us to collect real-time data on all assets. That could include warehouses, transportation units, roads. When we're in transit, could be seas, skies, and even people. The main benefits we see if we incorporate this type of technology in our transportation management solutions is that we will be optimizing the use of the assets of our carriers that are our partners. We will generate higher operational efficiencies. We will be providing visibility when moving goods, but also will give us access to also monitor the conditions of the goods that are being transported. It will provide security and behavior alerts on assets, products, and the drivers. It will help us managing risk, and it will facilitate us the decision-making process when you're in transit and have to decide if you want to go during midnight, if you want to avoid a congested route, if you want to avoid a dangerous region or zone. So before I close, what I have for you, I would like to show you a little video with the vision of Ryder about smart warehousing.
On the outside, a smart warehouse looks like any other building. On the inside, innovative technology like autonomous vehicles, drones, sensors, and wearables are creating a more intelligent supply chain. At Ryder, we're using these technologies to deliver the 5 key attributes we identified that define a smart warehouse. Automate where necessary, remain nimble, scale instantaneously, deliver 100% real-time visibility, and provide a customer-centric experience. Here's a quick look how each technology functions in a smart warehouse. Autonomous vehicles, such as forklifts and transporters, provide efficient and reliable solutions for moving goods, improving visibility and increasing productivity. In Ryder-managed warehouses, automated forklifts produce 20% operating savings. Aerial drones travel through facilities, mapping the warehouse and updating data on inventory and facility conditions. Manually, this task could take up to 1 day for 2 or more employees and at least 1 scissor lift to complete. Using a drone, the task can be completed up to 66% faster. Sensors and identification tools automatically locate and profile warehouse inventory to capture and communicate data while providing real-time visibility. Sensor types include safety, motion, light, and climate control that are integral in chain of custody reports, as they minimize risk, improve accuracy, and cut costs. Wearable technology creates the capability to exchange data between devices and the network to support core processes, such as shipping, receiving, routing, inventory management, picking, and replenishment. At Ryder-managed warehouses, wearables decrease the time it takes to pick and scan inventory by 5 seconds per item and improves efficiency by 20%. Ryder is building the warehouses of tomorrow today. With smart warehouses that are flexible, automated, scalable, and customer-focused, supply chains can quickly become the most valuable tool in driving efficiency and meeting customer needs. Consumers are getting smarter. It's time your warehouse does too.
Well, just to conclude, technology is becoming available constantly, and it's our job as supply chain professionals to find the right moment to incorporate it, so we help our customers face the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ricardo, for sharing that. Again, I think I quite enjoyed that. I think yesterday we heard about the sort of 5 myths and what's hype and what's sort of reality. And I think this vision of the smart warehouse and it's the future, but it's not some distant future. These are technologies that exist now and which we're already seeing have a real impact, and they're very relevant here in Mexico and will become more so. So a very interesting perspective there. Thank you again. We'll have time to pick up more on Q&A, but we have a final presentation. Before we do that, I'm pleased to welcome a Mexican tier supplier to the stage, Carlos Lazeri, MP&L Director for the Bocar Group. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Exacto.
Very good, everybody. This is the second time that I am here, and I'm very happy to be able to share with you some experiences about the logistics in our company. Last year was a really good year for us. We grow in sales, we have a good performance, but we are not happy with the results. We are satisfied, but we are not happy. We need to improve. The continuous improving is a task that we need to do every time. So, now we have some challenges. We are launching more than 350 new products during 2018. We need to be very precise on this. And you know the logistics is only cost. So we need to reduce the cost, to optimize the resources, as you said, and we need to find out new ways for work. But everything is based on our people. So we continue investing on the development of the people with some universities and some other associations like APICS. Okay, having said that, I would like to share with you some information about the logistic overview of the group. Our main traffic, that is the ground transportation, it's about 80%, 85% of our transportation. Sea transportation is about 15%. Railway, we are not having any transportation on this mode. Then I will share some security information about the country, about Mexico. Then the benchmark of the World Bank and some conclusions, giving you some ideas of how we are doing, what are the actions that we are taking to improve, and what we need from the support of the country. Bocar is an automotive parts supplier, and we supply to almost all the OEMs in North America. We have 2 divisions. The first one is the plastic divisions. We have the injection molding, painting, assembly, and welding, and the automotive, aluminum automotive components is the second division, and we have different processes as high-pressure die casting, semi-permanent mold, CNC machining, assembly, heat treatment. We produce some prototypes. We design and we have some testing laboratories. We are located in Mexico City, San Luis Potosí, Toluca, Chihuahua, Querétaro, Saltillo, and for the next year, we will have a new plant in the US. This is the first plant that we are going to have out of Mexico in Huntsville, Alabama. Having said that, we can see in the map all the logistics that we have. Basically, we have two main corridors, that is Chihuahua, El Paso, and Manchester, Tennessee. That is our distribution center. And the other corridor is Mexico City to Laredo and Manchester, Tennessee. We have some logistic and technical sites, one in Laredo, another one in Manchester, and offices in Detroit, in Germany, and Japan. Okay, let's talk about the inbound logistics that we have. 41% of our logistics is inside Mexico, so we depend on the infrastructure of the country. Some 28% is in the US, and we have good partners there. We have around 180 suppliers where we consolidate all the cargo to Laredo or El Paso. And 29% is coming from Europe. It's about also 500 different suppliers in Europe that we consolidate, and we have every week around 10 containers coming to Veracruz. For the outbound logistics, most of the product is going to the US, 47%, and 51% remains in Mexico, to the OEMs in Mexico, and only 1% is going to Europe and other countries. Let's talk about the ground transportation that we have. Our volume on the year is around 23,000 trips, but one of the main advantages that we have is that these 85 to 90% of the trips are round trips. So that's an advantage for us, but also for our carriers. And the volume is basically 30% in our plant in Chihuahua and 67% in the other plants. What is our experience with the ground transportation now? Well, we have seen poor highway maintenance. 2 weeks ago, I was driving from San Luis Potosí to Querétaro, and it's amazing, it's incredible. I just reached Querétaro in 10 hours and a half, so it's normal time is 2 hours. It was 10 hours, so it's crazy, no? Then we have maybe it seems like something natural to wait 20 minutes in a pay toll. It's crazy as well. We are losing time. Time is money. So we need to improve on that. But we are not able to do anything right now. We are not prepared for severe weather conditions. No? We have 3 days, the trucks in Saltillo just stop it because the snow. And then we need to react to the customer. And as we are a company with a good customer focus, we need to do some charters to avoid any impact to our customers. But we were not able, as a country, to react in a lower time. We need to take 3 days to start moving everything again. That's the poor reaction on the emergencies. Lack of planning. We said there is not an alternative routing or during road maintenance. You can imagine that you are having this maintenance, but you can have some alternatives and some information on time to take the right decision. That's another point. Huh? We don't have information online, reliable, to take the right decision. Highway blocks sometimes. And right now we have experienced some driver shortage. There are some trucks stuck in the customs because there are no drivers in the US. And finally, we have some empty returns. This is most affecting the carriers than us, but it's also a loss of money there. You are making a trip without cargo. No? Effects, you can see, no? Impact on the productivity, waiting times, delays on deliveries, additional fuel costs, safety is affected, extra freight, competitiveness loss, and shutdown risks with our customers. Sea transportation, we already talked about the capacity of the ports. It's too short right now. We are not prepared to the growth of the country. And the weather conditions in Veracruz, we all know that we need to have some stock, safety stock, for these delays in the port. But on top of the Veracruz issues, last quarter of 2017, we have a lot of issues in Germany, also with some delays and rollout of the vessels. The same impacts than before, just cost. Rail transportation, as yesterday Peter said that there is not a solution, cost-effective solution. So we are looking for this kind of solution, but we are not giving any advantage on the cost. So I think we need to work on that with the different suppliers, carriers. Okay, at the end, another problem that we have right now is the security. Some months ago, we have a critical delivery to one customer. It was expedited in a special truck, and then the truck was hijacked. So there was nothing that we can do, but we affect our customer. So this is the map of the risks that we have in the country. You can see the central region and the Bajío is the most dangerous. When it's happening these issues, most of the time in the transit. Then in the roadside, when the truck is stopped or the rail is stopped, then some in the facilities. But basically it's in the transit where we have the problem. Let's say that maybe we are not the most affected. We only have 5% of the issues. And then food and drinks is 16%. But I'm sure that food and drinks is more, because there are red space, 32% that nobody said who the cargo. No? That was not defined. At the end, we know that it's a problem in Mexico, the security. Most dangerous highways, the famous 57, Mexico, San Luis Potosí. Next one, Querétaro, Guanajuato, México, Veracruz, Puebla, Veracruz, y Morelia, Guadalajara. So this is something that needs to be improved. We cannot work in that environment. No? Okay, Rafael talked about the global index, the same, but I just want to complement that the process is evaluating 5 different topics. The first one is the customs. We have a lot of issues in the customs with the system delays. You cannot pay the pedimento. You cannot make the export or import. You have a long queues to go through the customs. And the hourly working hours are limited. No? So just imagine you have a delay in the highway, and then you have to wait until the next day to go through customs. So you lost basically 24 hours in the process. And we are talking about the reduction of the lead times, reduction on the inventories, but we cannot do that because we are not having a reliable process in the different topics. Second one is the infrastructure. We talk about that. International shipments, logistic competence, I think is a very key factor. We need to prepare our people to have the right skills to take the right decisions. Then the tracking and tracing and the timeliness. For Mexico, let's say this is the grading for every one of these topics. We start in the benchmark in the number 54 in the customs, 57 in infrastructure, 61 in international shipments. Logistic competence is a little bit better, 48%, 48 ranking. Tracking and tracing, 42. And we definitely are out of time, 68. Too bad on that issue. So as a conclusion, there are some action that we can take, and we can focus on that. Every year we have, in the company, we have a target on savings, and we are reaching the savings, so we are optimizing every time our processes. We need to improve our truck utilization. There is, let's say, resources in the market, but we need to use these resources in the right way. Maximize use of round trips to ensure the driver's availability. In some cases, we are having some restrictions on the daylight circulation when possible. One time we lost a truck with aluminum, 20 tons of aluminum coming from Laredo to Saltillo, just because we were driving at 3 o'clock in the morning. So that was not a good decision. We changed this, and we are only using the daylight circulation. Define and maintenance safety stocks. One of the key factors is to be prepared for the different disruptions. But you know, we cannot have a lot of stock. We just have maybe 1 day, 7 days, 15 days, but no more than that. And now we are implementing the 3PL process. We want to get the advantage to have a good supplier with the good conditions to give us the information in the right time and and take the right decisions. From the side of the country, we need a lot of support, and we need really a strategy on this issue. I feel personally that we don't have a strategy on that. So we need to increase the capacity of the ports, to improve the conditions and capacity on the highways, reduce waiting time in pay tolls and customs, reduce process time in customs, increase the use of the technology that we already talked about, and increase the railway network. You know, yesterday in the round table, we were talking about the information. The information is a key factor. We need to have the right information in the right time to have right decisions, to be able to solve a problem. We are not afraid of the problems. These situations show up every day, but we need to have the skills and the information to be able to take the right decision. So information is power, and time is money. So we need to talk and to work to improve these two issues. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Gracias, Carlos. Again, another great presentation. I was just saying with Rafael, took some of the same information from the logistics index, but from different perspectives, and so you get a good sense of some of the challenges there from both a car maker and tier supplier. But I also liked, Carlos there was on the last slide, obviously there's actions that we want to see from government, there's investment, there's a big kind of infrastructure projects, but there's also a lot that can be done here, so to say, between supply chain partners, through technology, through collaboration and communication. So I think it's important to focus on both of those, but perhaps especially sometimes what we can do and not just waiting for others to fix it. That World Bank index is interesting. It's always worth looking at to get a sense of where things are. I would probably make just two comments on it. One, in relation to the automotive industry. I think sometimes the rankings probably don't capture some of the level of advancement for Mexico because it's so well integrated in North America because of the rail. If you saw the international shipments on that, Mexico's ranked quite highly. And in general, the level of infrastructure that helps make North America flow is quite good. And I think some of those processes in the automotive industry are certainly benchmark, certainly for other industries in Mexico to aspire to. I also sometimes wonder about some of the criteria. I think I looked at the report one year and noticed that Mexican ports were ranked just behind Austrian ports, which is sort of strange for a landlocked European country to have gotten such a good ranking on that side. But hey, you know, I don't know. I'm no expert on these kinds of things. But again, really great presentations from all of our panelists. I think they gave us a lot of food for thought, and we'll have some Q&A. A quick announcement. I had a message in. Apparently, somebody lost a bag last night. They've reported that their bag is missing. It looks apparently like the conference bag, but it has some orange stripes across it. So if anybody accidentally took that bag or found it, if you could just give it into one of our staff, we'll make sure that it gets back to the owner. Thank you for that. We mentioned, obviously, our conference app, which you can use to put in questions, but maybe we'll just have a few, one second. Did you want to ask a question? Okay, well, you know what, I always put that phone. We have mics going around, right? All right, let's start off with the audience. The audience wants to ask the question. I never want to stand in the way of that.
Thank you for the presentation, really good presentations, interesting.
I think we need that a bit higher volume.
So my first question to Ford is, what are you doing, the OEMs, alone or together, to improve the customs clearance in Mexico? Are you talking with the government? Are there any initiatives you're taking? That's very much interesting me. And the second question to the Bukar, which had a very brave presentation. He put the things really on the table, and very good presentation. I'm wondering what's the impact on the delays, and if they have to pay fines, if they are they have delays to their OEM customers. Thank you very much.
¿Cuál fue la segunda pregunta?
El pago de multas por atrasos
del
cliente.
Did you hear the questions? Okay.
Ford.
I think the first question was to Ford, yeah? So, on a side.
Well, your first question, what are we doing, the OEMs together or alone? That we are doing is we have been working with some other OEMs in cases where it is appropriate to do that. As I mentioned in my presentation, in order to rationalize or optimize the capacity, for instance, of ports, for instance, of intermodal terminals. Another thing that we are doing is through the appropriate channels. Everybody in an OEM organization like Ford, there are appropriate channels to talk with the government, with government offices, with some organisms, and we have been doing is in all these forums and taking the appropriate channels, send to them and put in the table the necessities and the constraints that we have. Is that we have been doing, and we will continue doing the same approach.
Thank you.
And also about your second question is if there is a penalty or a fine when there are delays. Unfortunately not. For instance, if we have a delay because of the weather in the ports, you cannot penalty to anybody because of these conditions. If you have a delay because of the port operation, because some other condition, infrastructure broken or damaged, there are no instances or regulations to make this kind of fines. In some cases, we have, dependent of the contracts that we have with our suppliers, carrier suppliers, railcar companies, there are specific conditions where we can apply some fine or some penalty if it's demonstrated that because of their responsibility, they have a delay or an interruption of the service.
Does anyone else want to comment on the fees, the fines for delays on that side?
Well, yes, about the contracts, I will say that we have some responsibility on that, on the delays. Obviously, if we have a major disruption that is not in our hands to handle, we always talk with our customers and define the situation. I think that We have a good relation with them, and we have a good solution for the problems. But yes, in some cases, due to our performance, we have these fines, and that's okay.
We have another question right here in the middle. If you get a mic.
Thank you. Thank you. It's Roberto Michela from International Trading and Transport, and this is a question for the panel. In a geopolitical instability environment, that many factors are impacting companies in the way they perform and they behave today and in future. And resembling the Mexican director Guillermo del Toro, what would be the new shape of the water for the automotive industry moving forward? If you can summarize those in 3 words only, because I know it's a long list of, let's say, way to summarize this. But what would be those 3 words that you could say will be the new shape of the automotive industry moving forward?
Well, if it's just 3 words, that's easy. Innovation, collaboration, and constant communication between the players within the supply chain to support the automotive industry. And I'm just talking from a logistics service perspective. So of course I would like my colleagues here that are the users of our services to complement or extend a little bit, but from a service perspective, those would be my 3 words.
Okay, thank you. I will say integration, cost-effective, and the last one is just in time. That's it.
I have another 3 words. One is infrastructure, the other one is talent, human talent, or talent, and the last one is information.
So those are 9 good words. You asked for 3 and you got 9. I think that's pretty good value. Anyone else want to jump in on a question? Right in the front here.
Hi, good morning. Luis Cázares from Trincio. I have a question for Rafael. How important is logistics for keeping the assembly of certain models from Ford here in Mexico? For example, there was this model Focus that was going to be assembled here in Mexico, and afterwards it was announced that it was going to be assembled in China. So I'm not sure if that's a strategy for many other models, and how, if it's possible from the logistics standpoint to keep those assembled here in Mexico or even North America based on the logistics improvements and costs.
Well, one of the major contributors or major factors to locate a plant everywhere is the logistic cost. That's for sure. If you are going to put a new plant in everywhere, one of the key factors to be analyzed is logistic cost, inbound logistic cost and outbound logistic cost, for sure. Because once you begin the production of one product in one plant, the inbound logistic cost, you will live with this cost, let's say, with the same inbound logistic cost for about 80 or 90% for the rest of the life of the product, and is very similar to the outbound logistic cost. You can modify if you relocate or you resolve some component. You can modify the inbound cost. If you have more infrastructure of different transportation modes, you can improve or modify as well the outbound logistic cost. But both factors should be analyzed for sure since the very beginning in the study of locating a plant everywhere.
It's a very interesting question, and I think one that obviously is part of a bigger decision as well, too. Right. We talk about models that were planned for Mexico that have now moved. Obviously, there's speculation about NAFTA, but of course, some of those models were planned to be smaller cars just at the time when the US market started to shift so drastically. And I think the Focus would be an example where the tooling investments and the plant modifications just wouldn't necessarily make sense either. Logistics is a part of that, but then moving it to China doesn't tell you that the logistics was all of it, does it? So clearly it's part of a complicated scenario. Any other questions from the audience? It's good to see you're all awake this morning, right here in the front.
Dale.
Coming from, behind you comes the other mic.
Nico Malos, él como quiera va a querer hacer sus propias preguntas.
Ivan Cisneros from Boca Group. This question is for Ricardo. Right now in Ryder, in what phase you are with the tracking and tracing internet system? Is there are you in a pilot phase? You have implemented these solutions?
Yes. We're right there, as you just described it. We're testing new technology. But we're not testing it in just in our imagination. It is testing with real customers, making sure it works. We have our own technology that is being developed during the last couple of years, and now we're in that phase where we're inviting customers, to say, hey, this is what we're bringing to the table. This is what we want to start implementing. Would you be open to be part of my testing phase? And that's what we're doing. And it's not only in the automotive industry, we're testing with consumer goods, fast-moving goods. So I'm pretty sure during 2018, we'll be transitioning from testing to operational.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to just ask a question. Since two of our three panelists brought up the World Bank benchmark for logistics, but in your own companies, obviously, maybe especially for Ryder and Ford, where you have operations across North America and many other places, what sort of benchmarking do you do for Mexico? How does Mexico compare within your own sort of internal benchmarking? Where can it improve most, or how does it rank in general? Is Ford's logistics in Mexico ultimately pretty competitive with Ford's logistics in the US or elsewhere? Maybe you can give us some perspective on that. Either for both, but maybe Rafael or whoever wants to start.
Well, we perform competitiveness studies. We have two kinds of comparisons between Ford. We have an indicator in all the factors to be analyzed. Let's say manufacturing quality, cost, logistic cost, and we have a ranking about how are we positioned between the Ford world. We call this indicator best in Ford. We know for every indicator which is the best in Ford, and we have the responsibility to develop plans to be. If we are not the best in Ford, we should have a plan how to be there. Also, we have another. It's very similar. Best in world is the same kind of indicator. We study all the factors, all the indicators in manufacturing quality, logistic, cost, and we have specific plans to improve ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And how does it? I mean, I appreciate you maybe can't give us a specific ranking, but how does it rank?
Well, in the case of manufacturing, we know that our Hermosillo stamping and assembly plant is within the 3 best plants in the world. In some cases, you cannot say absolutely we are number 1 because there are several indicators, but for sure we are between the 2-3 best plants worldwide. Also, our engine plants in Chihuahua are the best in the world, and in cost also and competitiveness.
Thank you.
Well, from our logistics perspective, Christopher, what I can say, I wouldn't rank the 3 countries where we have a strong presence, which are the US, Mexico, and Canada, but I can tell you that the way we try to measure ourselves is being consistent with the message we send to the market, which is we're a NAFTA end-to-end solutions provider. So that's what we try to do, just be consistent and make sure that if Mexico is giving some advantages to the solutions that we offer and operate for our customers, we just need to make sure that it's perfectly well integrated to the end-to-end NAFTA solution. So that's how we see it, that's how we measure ourselves, being consistent, because that's what we do. We are not a global service provider, we're more focused in North America, and that's what we try to do best.
Okay, fair enough, and a good point. It does sort of require a small follow-up, which I'm afraid is not an easy question, but since you look at it NAFTA, and it is a NAFTA basis, do you have contingency plans for any kind of specific changes that could be happening as a result of what we know is going on, and how that might impact your operations?
Is that for Carlos?
That's unfortunately for you, and then the others can jump in.
No, well, what we do is we stay alert. We try to be aware and updated on what is going on, because at the end we are a facilitator. We are in the middle of our customers, the authorities, the governments. So that's our job, to just be prepared to any changes. But at the end, our main goal and focus is to keep our customers' operations moving smooth as possible and adapt to any changes that may come.
Thank you.
I want to add something, Christoph. You made a very good question, and I mentioned that our Hermosillo plant is best in the world. We are producing every 56 seconds one car. It's a worldwide quality car, high-tech car, and most of the volume for this produced by this plant, 90%, is for export. And then the challenge for logistics is huge, because if the plant can produce every 56 seconds one car, you need to support that operation no matter what you have to do. And the challenge, talking about all the constraints that we show, Carlos show, Ricardo show, no matter that, you have to comply supporting the production of the plant with this rate.
Thank you.
One more comment, Christopher, about the benchmarking. Yeah. We internally set up a world-class lean standard for all the company, and we evaluate all our plants every 6 months with this world-class standard. So with this, we can find the room to improve and to reach the highest level in the lean concepts.
Great. Well, thank you. If there's any last questions from the audience, we can take one more. Okay, there's the one right in the back. That's yep. Gentleman standing. Mike coming over here.
Eduardo Aspero from Hub Group. I just want to do some specifics about security. Security for sure is the most important element to take care in Mexico, at least in the last 2 years. But if we come back to your slide, Carlos, about security issues in Mexico, we can see that we have an important issue on something that we can call a horizontal axle, which is the situation in Puebla and Bajío, particularly cargo coming from the ports to the Mexico City, or cargo moving from Mexico City to the Pacific. In the same slide, we can see in green that the security issues are really dramatically less on the north. And I'm mentioning this because by now, intermodal traffic, and somebody mentioned or asked during the roundtables what intermodal is the transportation of a container on a train. So this is a good option, and I don't want to let the impression that we're having security issues. We are working on that specific activity. We're moving 70% of our traffic, I'm talking about 40,000 containers a year, on intermodal, and security is really high. I'm watching the program. We're going to have the participation of the president of Kansas City Solid of Mexico. I think it's going to be a very good question for him to define the security issues, what they are doing, and you will see that the security has been improved, particularly on the NAFTA axle, let's say the traffic between Mexico, US, and Canada. I just want to remark that because The strategy for many companies today, due to the restrictions on truck transportation at the US, is looking for options, and intermodal is one of them, and I don't want to let the impression that we have a huge security issues. It's all the contrary. Today, intermodal transportation between US and Mexico is the safest transportation mode. Thank you.
Okay, I really agree with you in the improvements. Some years ago, it was worse, but the automotive industry is not so affected with this. As I told you, the main issue is with the drinks and beverage, and I think they have issues in some areas of Mexico more than us. But agree, we have a lot of improvements there, but still we need to improve more. That's the point. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the comment. I think it's valuable, and I think so it's also a good point to end on there. Coming a long way, but a long way to go. But I think the road ahead is positive. The future of automotive logistics in Mexico is certainly positive. Thank you once again to our panelists for their presentations and for their answers to the questions. Thank you for all of your questions. Quick reminder, just a reminder again about that bag. If you found a bag last night, please turn it in. Also, the valuation forms that are on your desk, or you can fill them in digitally via the app, where you can also rate the session itself. So please take some time to do that. We will see you back in here at 11 o'clock. Enjoy the coffee.
Muy bien, Ricardo.